Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:06 p.m. and would like to call this regular city council meeting to order, announcing that a quorum is present. And we'll start off with invocation and pledge of allegiance. Everyone, please stand. Bow your heads, dear Lord. Thank you for today. Thank you for our just being able to be here and gather to take care of the business of our city and our residents. Continue to give our city staff wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Help the city council continue to carry out the vision and mission. That's going to be the best course of action for our residents today and in the future. Bless all of those that are here and gathered. Continue to watch over and keep us safe. Watch out for and protect our first responders and everyone else that's on the front lines for our not only our city but for our nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you may be seated. Proclamations. Declaring Friday, November 1st, 2024 as Texas Arbor Day. Proclamation. Whereas Texas first observed Arbor Day in 1889 under the leadership of the Texas Forestry Association, whereas all across Texas, from towering pines to majestic oaks to shrubby mesquites, and many trees of Texas are beautiful and prominent features of our unique and breathtaking landscape. And whereas as Texans, we value our trees and the benefits they provide each of us every day. Benefits like clean air, clean water, improving our health, and even saving us energy on energy bills. And whereas we encourage people in our community to plant trees and to celebrate them on the first Friday each November on Texas Arbor Day. And whereas this holiday for trees is an opportunity to teach fundamental lessons about the stewardship of our natural resources and caring for our environment. It is an opportunity to learn what each of us can do to keep our community trees healthy and vibrant. It is also a time we can pause to appreciate trees in our lives. Whereas together we can create a brighter and more beautiful future for the next generation, they in turn can affirm the duty of protecting our natural resources by being responsible stewards of this great land. And whereas the city of Mena will host Texas Arbor Day event at Timmerman Park on November 16, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., the community is involved to bring their families to this fun event for all ages. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of the City of Mena, on behalf of the Mena City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, November 1st, 2024 as Texas Arbor Day. In the city of Mena, urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands, and I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote well-being of the present and future generations. Proclaim this 16th day, October 24, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor, City of Mena. All right. Looks like we have some guests here. Y'all come on up and we can take a photo. Anyone else from Tree Park or Council, y'all want to come down for a photo, please do so.
Y'all look nice. Don't act crazy.
Yeah, we'll get back. So you're taking
And I can see you.
How about if I do this?
I think I got you.
See,
Okay.
he's taller. He getting the
Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Oh, wait, one more.
one more way. Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on, so we're not ready.
Okay. In 5, say trees. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Trees.
Got it.
Thank y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hi. Watch the road.
You're losing weight. Yeah. Hey, keep up the good work.
All right. As we get to our seats, public comments, non-agenda item public comments are going to be on the white card. Those who fill out the white card, you have a total of 3 minutes, not to exceed 3 minutes. Going to be taken from audience on non-agenda related topics for a length of time, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. And we're going to start off with Miss Faye Carter. Oh, Miss, there you are. Perfect timing. Come on up. Be sure that can you help her with the microphone?
I bet y'all know where I've been.
There we go.
My name is Faye Carter, and a couple of people asked me to. Oh, I want to thank y'all for what you do. Thank you for the community, and a couple of people asked me to. They found out I was coming to City Council. They said, ask them about that road 973 and 969 that are single roads, and when they come out of their homes or whatever, they retired, and they think the traffic is going to be easy, but it's blocked up that way. So they single lanes, and so they asked me to, can y'all do anything about those single lanes? So I'll tell them what y'all said. Y'all just looked at me. Okay. And so, and thank y'all for those, I don't know if y'all are responsible, those markers at 290 that keep you from going over into the other lane, those bumps right there, those are so nice, whoever put those there. So thank you, so you can stay in your lane. But also I wanted to say that I'm on KLBJ, Fridays with Faye, like at either the 805 or 905, because I want to continue to have our community and our country to stay focused with what Dr. King was about. He's deceased, but I'm still here, and so I think I'm here for a purpose. And so I just wanted to encourage our community, encourage all of us. I got my UT shirt on because 6-0, and but when I went to UT under Dr. King's leadership, blacks couldn't play on the team, and if you go right across the street from UT, you wasn't able to go in any of the movie theaters, the restaurants, or just anything, you know. So we've come a wonderful long way. So I want us to, as a country, as a community, to stick together. It's so much fun when we all celebrating UT going to the top and going to be in the NCAA champions. So you know, you can, when you're united, you can all celebrate and have fun, have a good time. So division is just not really good. We are the United States of America. So his death helped us all to bring our country up to be the kind of country that it should be. A great country. We said it, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for everybody. So that's just kind of what I want to say. And I'm just kind of practicing so that when I'm on the radio, it'll come out real smooth and comfortable and good. But they gave it to me Fridays with Faye, so what does that mean? I mean, when I was an activist, I was 19. Now I'm 81, and I can still be productive and be an activist. So
Yes, ma'am.
praise God. So thank y'all for everything. I love all of y'all.
Thank you. So before I call up the next person, just a reminder, we usually don't go back and forth and during discussion for public comments, but I will tell you that there has been some movement on 973 and Highway 290, and so I'm hoping that some point in time it's posted by the city so that people can know what's happening. but there have been some posts about that. Yes, ma'am. All right, next, Ms. Ruth Biscoe, come on up.
Hello, everybody. My name
Hello.
is Ruth Taylor Biscoe, and I'm here to talk about the little park here across from the railroad track. Before you get to the railroad track, what's the name of that park? The little park on right here on the main street, the art park. Okay, so as you know, I work with some of the seniors here in Manor, and we was trying to see if we can get something more in that little park there because we go there to visit sometime 3 days a week, and I have 2 or 3 seniors that walk on Wednesdays, and we go to the park, but there's nothing there. So I was wondering if we can get something, some type of like history there in the park, other than the paint on the walls, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you can come up with something, because my ideas are not working. They're just not working. And another thing is, this is my home. Been here all my life, and I graduated from high school here in '67. And I just don't want the history to go away. I want to just like here in Manor, I call it downtown. I don't know what you guys call it, but if we can just upgrade some stuff and leave history there. Don't just not take away so much of Manor history. I'm concerned about that because I work with history all the time. So if we can get some history here in Manor, on the streets, on the corner, just some history. Seems like to me everything is going away. All the new buildings are coming up instead of, sort of like upgrading some of the buildings down here, and not so much taking stuff away from the history buildings here in Manor. So maybe I'm not saying it right, but if you just go look, you'll understand where I'm coming from. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right. There are no more public comments, just guests here for items, so we will move forward. Reports. A, fiscal year 2024-2025 special events schedule. Michelle Andre.
Hi, Mayor, City Council, Yalondra Valderrama, Heritage and Tourist. Here is the official 2024-2025 fiscal year for all the special events here in Manor that the city will be putting together. One already passed, which was our Hispanic Heritage and Celebration. And then our next one will be Veterans Day. You should all have the calendar with all the details of the event. There's still some details, like some of the events still don't have a specific time and everything, but as we keep planning on the process, those details will be clear for everybody. We will plan to make our calendar public for our citizens to start planning and save the days for all the events. And basically that's everything I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, council members? Y'all good? Okay, y'all, nobody shook their head or anything. Oh, you got one? Go ahead.
I do, but now that I'm saying it again, I'm not sure exactly how to say it without sounding offensive, but it's kind of in an open-minded space. But I guess I'm going to just say it. So one thing I was thinking about was limiting some of the celebrations that we have. Like, I appreciate them, and I like what we have. I like when we do celebrate different things, but I was wondering if allowing the community to be able to put forth more, bring in some of the other holiday celebrations, well, the national celebrations or some that last like a whole month. And I think right now, according to our calendar, the scheduled event, I'm only kind of referring to the Black History Month and the Hispanic Heritage Month heritage celebration. But if the city does only kind of celebrates with the city being the sponsor on the federal holidays, and then allowing the community to bring in some of the national celebrations instead. And kind of sort of from a perspective of we do have a very diverse community, and there's lots of different holidays or national celebrations that could be celebrated throughout the year, and so that it doesn't put a financial burden on us, one, but then also it doesn't put like a strain on us to have a particular level of celebration. Then it was just the thought to only have the federal holidays at this time, or I guess kind of moving forward. That's all for 2020.
Okay, and I think we've had that conversation before. Does anyone need clarification on what she's talking about? Or have questions about it?
I believe I can kind of be in agreement with that statement because, like, we just had Indigenous Peoples Day, and the city didn't celebrate that, and that's now a national holiday. We have many different cultures in our city, and we need to be able to allow people from those cultures to celebrate, but not put all of the wear and tear of the celebrations on the city. We need to work with some of the community groups to maybe support them, not help support them in creating activities and things, especially like your month-long celebrations. You can have many different small things through different groups in the community that can provide the celebration itself versus the city taking on that role.
Yes. But not to denounce like wanting to still allow for the city to be able to acknowledge it, but not host and deliver the celebration of it, if that helps. So like how Yolanda took the time to decorate our city hall foyer area, recognizing everyone who pertains to whatever the celebration is or whatever that national holiday could be, because it could be any national holiday. If we decided it was breast cancer awareness or something, so it was survivors or it was people who've been through that, but not having to sponsor an entire event. And I'm not speaking about it's a council thing, because I'm actually looking to council because just wondering if that's something that we could allow the community to bring back to us, to bring back to the community to celebrate, instead of us having that weight of having to make sure that we celebrate every culture or every national event. That's what I really mean, every national event on that.
Council members?
Starting in 2025.
Thoughts, council members?
I guess to ask the question, if there's groups that have been wanting to step forward, I guess we can give them the opportunity to schedule a time with Yolanda and say, because a lot of people don't have they have the idea, but they don't know the process in order to get something started. And if it's kind of like some of the other groups that want to come and rent the park or do something, give them the avenue to work with them. So here's a checklist that you would have to go through if you got a group to want to do an event, and then see if that can grow from there, rather than saying, well, it's not on our list, we're not going to do it. But at least give them a chance to come together, because if they do, you might see more want to do little things and it can grow from there. So we would definitely want to be open to them scheduling a time and scheduling it so we can meet with them, see what that is, and then say, hey, council, there could be something in February, March that's not really on this, but allow them to be able to bring it forward and see where it goes from there, because we don't want to just say it's not on the list, we're not going to do it. But like you're saying, if it gives them a chance to come forward, even if it's a block party in their neighborhood, but may grow from there, but just give them an opportunity to share their ideas with us, and then bring it back to the council if there's going to be requests for services or barricades. That way we know how to proceed, because we definitely want to discourage anyone that wants to do something small enough to where it can grow into a park.
So, but a couple of examples in case, also for council, Yom Kippur, that's celebrated every year, or Diwali, that's celebrated by the Hindu faith as well. And like Councilmember Hill mentioned, we're growing and we're steadily becoming more and more diverse, and that definitely, I think, is a great idea. It'll bring out more of our diverse citizens to want to do these things. And I think just kind of giving it a head start would allow, more expanded celebrations to occur.
So, this is a report. So what I would recommend is maybe a couple of council persons connect with Mr. Moore and Miss Yolanda, and kind of hash this out and bring back something next council meeting that everyone can discuss with as an action item, since it's just a report. But I think those notes and remarks have been heard, and so can we get 2 or 3 volunteers to work with city staff on that?
I would.
Emily Hill, Mayor Pro Tem Wallace. You brought it up. Okay, and so Hill, Wallace Hill.
I'll do it too.
Huh?
I'll do it too.
Okay, one of y'all got to drop off.
Wait, how many did you?
I'll drop off.
Oh.
I'll step
You drop
out
off.
and let you.
Okay, so Moreno, Hill, and Hill. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Yolanda, for all your hard work on that. And then we just look back to hear from y'all, kind of what y'all discuss, and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. All right, consent agenda items. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless expressed by mayor or council member in which the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. All right, let me know if there's something you want to pull as I'm reading. Consideration, discussion, possible action to approve city council minutes. Consideration, discussion, possible action on accepting the 2024 fourth quarter city council reports. Consideration and discussion, possible action on accepting the September 2024 city council monthly reports. Consideration, discussion, possible action on accepting the September 24 departmental reports. Consideration, discussion, possible action on the resolution authorizing issuance of bonds for Manor Housing Public Facility Corporation Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds, Tower Road Apartment Series 2024, approving the form of trust, indenture, and loan agreement, approving the Tower Road Apartment Development, authorizing execution of documents and instruments necessary or convenient to carry out the purposes of this resolution and contain other provisions related thereto. Consideration, discussion, possible action on the resolution authorizing the interest of Maynard Housing Facility Public Facility Corporation, subordinate multifamily housing revenue bonds, Tower Road Apartment Series 2024, approving the form of a subordinate trust indenture and subordinate loan agreement, approving the Tower Road Apartment Development, authorizing the execution of documents and instruments necessary or convenient to carry out the purposes of this resolution and containing other provisions related to. 7, consideration, discussion, possible action on a conservation easement for Blue Bluff project. 8, consideration, discussion, possible action on a resolution making available to members of the City Council optional benefit of deferred compensation plan managed by Nationwide Retirement Solutions and authorizing payroll deductions for participating council members. 9, consideration, discussion for possible action on a resolution making available to the members of the City Council to the services of our leadership and authorizing payroll deductions for participating council members. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on on donation and exchange agreement with the Shops at Glassdale LLC. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on 4,399 square foot water line easement and temporary construction easement. Number 12, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a 6,589 square foot water line easement and temporary construction easement. Any items on there that need to be, that someone want to pull, or a motion for the consent agenda?
Mayor, can you pull 8 and 9 for a short clarification?
Okay, what you want to pull, or what you want to have a conversation about it? A question answered prior.
If there's room for just a question, that's fine. Prior.
Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and go ahead.
My question was,
Okay, so that would be discussed individually. If every one of you are interested in participating in the supplemental benefits for retirement or legal shield, the separate, then you'll contact me. I'm the benefits coordinator for all of our benefits for the city, and we'll get together and I will have our representative come meet you here, and you'll talk to them individually, and you can see all the different options they offer.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. All right. Any other questions or pulled or a motion for the consent agenda?
I just had a quick question. I noticed when I was looking at one of the reports on the works, I thought it was on the works one. Street Parks Monthly Report, September 2024, but then it says daily duties and projects for 9/1/23 to September 30th, 2023. Was that a typo or is that correct?
Come on up, sir.
It's this one. It looks like this one.
Good evening.
Where it says 9/1 to 9/30?
And 2023 and then 2023.
Yes, that's a typo. That should say 24.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's supposed to be 24.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Again, take a motion on the floor for consent agenda.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
A motion on the floor. Is there a second? By Councilwoman Waters, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesquite. Any questions to the motion? Any question to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Moving right along. Item number 13, consideration on the regular agenda. Consideration discussion, possible action on development agreement establishing development standards for Boyce PJT Development, 101 Boyce Street. And just so everyone's aware, council members, 13 through 18 is related to the same same group. So, who's coming up? Is it Michael? Oh, okay. All right.
Council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. In terms of item number 13, you have in your summary form that there are 3 tracks that make up one project. So what you're going to see between items 13 through 18 are the related documents for each of the tracks. So the first tract is a development agreement for 101 Boyce Street. Excuse me. And it summarizes what the city staff and developer have agreed to. And we do have one correction for you if you choose to approve this development agreement, and that is on page 9 where we're talking about assignments. The name of the legal entity is BBTX Zone LLC.
Page 9.
Page 9, and it is subsection D.
189.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
So
189, section D.
subsection D.
Okay.
We're just adding BB before TX Zone LLC.
Okay.
And it shows up twice in that subsection.
Okay.
So with that one revision, city staff is recommending approval. We did summarize. If you'd like me to summarize some of the points in there, I'm happy to do that. They're summarized in your summary form. And we do have the developer here to answer any questions and to make a presentation if you would like to hear from them.
Is it one presentation for all or per track? One for all? Y'all want to see the presentation? Come on up.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Here, you can drive. I'll let Sarah drive.
Hello, so we are presenting the final renderings and the expected concept that will be completed. Upon the completion of construction, which will be around 2026 for 101 Boyce Street, 2027 for 107 Boyce Street, and 2028 for 104 and 108 Boyce Street.
The location of these are right across the street, right next to the Davis Investments building at Boyce and Lexington, right at Boyce and Lexington on the corner. And one of them is right behind Davis's building, one of the lots that they own.
where the fence is surrounding that area?
Yeah, in your package, you can see there's a flat of it, and Davis's building is in front of 109 Lexington, and they own the lot behind it, and they also own the lot next door, which is right next to Davis's building. They own the whole block there. Total of, let's see, one of the buildings is a little over 11,000 square feet, and the other building is 33,000 square feet, 3 stories. Both of them.
And
Yeah, directly catty-cornered from City Hall.
and we are committed to investing 3.5 million in property improvements for 107 and 104, 108 each for each tract, and 4.5 million for 101 West Boy Street.
You have in your packages I gave you, you have a breakdown, the impact analysis that shows the economic impacts of those. It shows the capital investment for each of the 3 properties.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
And we're taking these one at a time. So this is 101 Boyce.
Okay, so we have in our hands, we have 3 stacks. One is 101 Boy Street. That's the capital investment of a total of 3.5 in building improvements, and then another 200,000 furniture, fixtures, equipment. And 104 and 108 are 3.5 in building improvements and 200 in furniture, fixtures, equipment. And then 107 we have down here for 4.5 million, and then 200,000 fixtures and equipment. That sound right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
So the first item for each is the development agreement. The second item for each is the 380 agreement. And so you'd be voting on each of those in repetition. The development agreement first for each address, the 380 agreement first for each, the second for each address, and then the next address, same thing for each. So that's the way it was put in the agenda, and so they've divided up these actually 3 lots, and that's the way they're going to develop them. And they have a time frame. These are all 3 of them are to be developed between 2025 and 2027. And the maximum grant amounts that that are in the in the Chapter 380 agreements, the maximum grant amounts all came in at 8% or under of the maximum capital investment, which are all less than the other 380 agreements that we did downtown.
My question is the parking. How are we going to handle the parking for these developments?
About that, my colleague Bo, he will be answering the question.
From the development agreement, we.
Who are you? First, introduce yourself.
My name is Bo. I'm from Bill Block, a colleague of Sarah Kim, and developer side of the this project. And for the parking wise, we are requesting a city for the mitigation for the parking ratio calculation, which is stated in the development agreements. And then there's basically for only the commercial area, which is affecting. We are trying to bring the restaurant into the buildings and then the retail stores on the first floor. Yes.
This is pursuant to some of the ideas that were projected in the comprehensive master plan, and also that are coming up in the downtown strategic plan. And there are also some of the some of the old parking ratios that we had for commercial buildings are a little egregious, and some of the downtown parking that is going to be needed, we're anticipating having some community parking, as in Mr. Davis has purchased a lot across the street from him, He's going to be having that for downtown, additional parking for his building and for others. And the city's going to be purchasing some parking areas as well. And so we'll have some additional parking downtown, we know. But they have quite a bit of parking on the site plan. It's in your package as well.
Yes,
But,
page
that was
199.
discussed and was discussed with Development Services Department when they were putting together this preliminary plat. But that'll go also through P&Z, and y'all be taking a look at that for the site plan.
Question on Caldwell with the open ditch. Are we planning to close that so that way you have the surface parking?
I'm so sorry. One more. What's
The open ditch that's there currently.
Uh-huh.
Are we
It will
planning
be
to?
we'll be covering the open ditch and
that'll
the park.
create some surface.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're working on. I know they're working with the engineers, and they're working with Development Services on drainage and retention for the site right now. They haven't gotten that far in the process, so we're doing the development agreement now and the 380 agreement now, but they'll be going through that process and has to go through P&Z and all that still.
And I think for the purpose of trying to bring things back to downtown, we know the open ditches have always been a concern off Lexington. So anything that we can do with our planning with development services, and since we have the stormwater fee, things like that, we can go ahead and really study that, and then that way we can go blocks north and south of Parsons to make sure we create more of that feel where people can park instead of having to park in somebody's private drive, but just park on the surface.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to get some detention south of downtown, and so we can have some cumulative detention and not have to have the open bar ditches for downtown. We're going to work on that plan, but we have to have a master drainage plan for downtown. In the meantime, developments like this come up, but we've got to have a place to put it. But they're trying to solve that for this particular site and others like it, like the Davis building as well. But they're working with Development Services on that right now, I know.
Thank you.
Another point to consider is that there has been a typo, chapter the 380 agreement for 104 and 108 Boy Street on page 4, under threshold, under like documentation criteria. So under that it says 43.5 million will be invested in capital, but it's actually 3.5. Yeah, there has been a typo, so sorry about that.
You sure you don't want to do that amount? Okay. Did you have any more slides to show? I think they got to switch you back.
These are the engineering plans we got from the engineer.
There, you all can see that those slants and those horizontal lines, that's that parking that's going to be made available in the space. You got lighting. I'll go back to that one real fast.
Go back one. Yeah, that shows the parking on site.
Questions? Council members?
Have we checked with people around that area about the lighting and how it will be effective at night?
Or does the lighting fall within our code and annoyances?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. The lighting will follow code, so it will not, city has adopted the National Dark Skies, thank you, policy. So there should not, again, there will be some light, but it's all according to standard, yeah, pointing down. Unless the engineer has something different, okay.
Thank you.
Other questions, council members?
Is the design of this building, as far as material, final as presented?
I believe the city of Manor has the specific exterior finishes code, and then we're following some of the masonry, veneer, or the stucco finishes on the exterior as per the code.
Do you have any follow-up questions on that, or that was good? Okay.
If I may, Mayor, council members, part of the DA for all of them, for all three development agreements, we have the standards. So it'll have masonry standards, outdoor lighting, and in this case, for this development agreement, sidewalk connectivity. So the developer has agreed to those items.
Questions, comments? And Miss Veronica, I have a question for you. I know I only read 13. However, we've gone through the slides and presentation information for 13 to 18.
Sure, sir. So recommendation is that you do take them separately because they are separate development agreements and separate 380 agreements. Again, you've already heard from everyone and they're all similar, but if you have any questions on the other items, they should be read separately and again, taken up separately.
Okay.
And especially because on item 13 we do have a minor change that we mentioned, and we're also going to have the same minor change when you
Get to the rest of
take up the next item.
Okay.
You'll notice the development agreements and the 380 agreements have different ownership also. Some of them are owned personally by Jiwan Jung, and some of them are owned by
Bill Black.
corporate entities.
Okay. Motion.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
How many units are going to be the living spaces? How many units for living?
For the DB zoning, we are following, I think it's 25 per acres, but
So like in 101, how many people are going to be able to
Live in this one.
He's talking about apartment units.
we should be providing 7 units on the second and third floors.
Second, third.
And then the 107,
8, is they going to have living?
yes.
How many?
104, 108 will be 8 units.
Uh, 107?
107 will have 10 units.
These are residential units above, commercial below.
More questions or a motion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess it was just for clarification. Where I'm looking at the fact sheet. So where would I see what Councilwoman Ware just asked? Is that where it says the residential development and it's like 0 homes, 6 relocations? Is that
The fact sheet doesn't count in how many residential units there are because we're looking at commercial businesses mainly. We're looking at production and commercial businesses, and the economic development side of it is not how many people you're bringing here, but how many businesses and jobs you're creating and such. So we didn't look at that side of it in the economic impact analysis. But the developer can help you with that part of it. But yeah, they are creating some residences here and bringing some people here. So I know some of the units they plan to use for residences for some of their people who are going to be here also, and they're going to be bringing some people here who are going to be working on some of the projects like the Wannick project, I believe.
and there's a separate 380 agreement for each one?
There's a DA for approval for each one. There's a 380 agreement for each one.
All right, so while y'all are pondering and reading, if you recall in you all's experiences in TML, we go to certain cities and we're into the downtown spot. Part of the goal of the downtown plan and our economic focus is density, mixed use, and walkability. And so when we're talking about density, mixed use, walkability, and downtown, the goal is not to flood the area with a ton of cars, but to have spaces where people can walk and commute and do those sorts of things. So that's why the request for there's a request for waiver instead of doing the 350 for the 35 parking spots to drop that down, so that there is walkability. So if you recall or if you've ever recently been to your Round Rock or Georgetown downtown areas and the walkability in the downtown area up and down the streets, not a lot of parking right there in front of the spaces, but spaces for you to park maybe further down and walk. So that's kind of from there. If you have questions, ask them.
Just I understand that concept and it's great. We're going to probably get there, but in the beginning, people are going to be parking until the concept gets contagious and does that. They're going to be parking, and each one of those units is going to have at least one person, probably two, to be able to afford it. There are going to be 2 cars that are going to be there at some point. Then you're talking about restaurants and then the businesses. That's all I'm just trying to get clarity on that.
Well, typically you have the businesses are busy during the day and the people are gone during the day to work. So you usually don't have a conflict with that because you're using the parking for the businesses daytime and the people are there sleeping at night. So you have a cross parking situation in most cases. That's why the live work units work pretty well together, because you're not using all the parking spaces all at once in most cases.
I think citizens are going to see these parking spaces as an opportunity to park, whether they utilize a business or whether they don't live there.
Well, that's simply enforced with a sign that says, resident or business use. It's the same thing in downtown Austin. Well, not downtown Austin, but Highland. The Highland ACC Center. They have full parking garages, and the only way you can park in them is if you're maybe stopping in at that pastry shop. I'm talking about on the west side of the ACC building. If you're eating at that pastry shop, or if you're a resident, or if you have a parking permit for ACC. So whole parking garage, but you can't go in there unless you meet those requirements. And so that's a typical thing. Even after you drive through Austin, go down Burnett Road, Lamar, you see the shopping centers, and they're all going to say, certain parking spots are for these restaurants. It can be even as specified as these for the storefront. Let's say there's 3 restaurants on the bottom floor. They can get as specific as saying these 4 spots are for this restaurant or for this office building or for that. So those are things that already exist, and commercial residential developments. So it's all those things can easily be policed, so that through just simple signage. Hey, park here if this, or park here from that. And so that the only way you get to a walkable space, you all, is if we create a walkable space. And how do you create walkable spaces? And the idea that we want to limit cars is by creating an environment piece by piece where there's not parking. And so I don't want to. I'll give you a good example. I'm going to the she's already left, Miss Faith. She already left. I was going to give a shout out. I'm going to the UT tailgate on Saturday. I'm going to have to park somewhere far off and Uber to the actual tailgate because there's no parking at the area for that tire space. You can't get there. It's not going to deter people from going because everyone's going to go because it's a destination spot. And so I think when we talk about how it happens, you just don't put parking spaces. Universities do it all the time. They just don't put enough parking. And so you're going to ride those university buses or the Capital Metro or whatever it may be to get to those spots. But that's how you kind of you shift and groom people into utilizing public transportation, carpooling, or kind of being far off is through that practice of saying, okay, we're not going to do our standard ratio and say we have 40 parking spots here. Instead, we're going to do 25 parking spots. And so that means people are going to have to come in and out or park at the lot that the other business owner is doing, or park at the space that the city's doing. And if I'm walking through that area, then guess what? I'm going to see whatever else is going to be downtown. I'm going to tour out the art park. I might do some other things, spend some more money. So that's kind of the whole idea is if we make it walkable, then all the rest of the business owners that start developing in that area, will actually start getting traction because people are walking through the area versus driving through. So that is the goal. And this helps to jumpstart that for us by limiting the parking. Same concept I was talking about when we were years back talking about the Maynard Commons design, and we were talking about how to get more in that space, and we didn't get that in on the forefront. So we have that whole development is by code, but we could have had more stores and business in that space, had less parking, and had more of a commuting space, which then would generate more ad valorem and sales tax revenue. So then one more reference back to the small business economic development training we went to. In that specific one, it talked about the density. And so we have to, in these types of situations, kind of make sure we're allowing for that density. And downtowns are good to have density, mixed use, 3 stories, restaurant, office on the bottom for that density, because it gives us that ad valorem we need in a smaller footprint, which then allows us to offer more incentives and bring more products down there, as well as if we want to incentivize more community-based or home-based businesses, or incubate some of the homes that want to stay downtown. We can do that, but we have to make sure we're bringing in products that help us balance out what we want to see downtown. And I think that's what we talked about in that downtown plan. So all that goes together.
Very well said, Mayor. I think also you can a couple of things on the parking situation. You can also, since it's right across the street and you've got 40 some odd parking spots here, public parking spots, you talk about walkability, you've got these spots available nighttime and on the weekends. And so if there's any shortage of parking, you've got the spaces here at City Hall that are available also within a short walking distance. And our downtown planner has looked at this project, and they're very, very excited about it. So it as part of their.
Don't get me wrong. I'm excited about the economic, side of it. I'm all for that. I'm 100% on that. Just concerned about the parking.
Well, you got the spaces here are not. I come by here all the time, and they're not occupied at night except on Wednesdays and on the weekends. So we've got a lot of parking here that's public, and they can be using it because it's right across the street as well. So I don't think that'd be an issue. And we'll be expanding that downtown. I mean, as more gets developed downtown, I mean, there eventually, in my mind, as we develop downtown, there'll be a need for a parking garage at some point in time. So as we get new buildings, there'll be a need for that, and we'll acquire, a spot and end up constructing a parking garage when it gets to that point. I wish it were now, but it's not there yet. But, if we get enough of these buildings, yeah, there will be a need for that. Build it, and we'll have to make it happen. Knock on wood, I hope that happens soon. It'd be a good problem to have.
Other questions?
I have a few. It looked like on one of these, there's like a fence that was going to be around it. Is that right? In one of those renderings?
Is it on the elevations they were showing?
You said a fence?
Back up and show the elevations. Let's see.
So I moved on. Let me find out.
Was it the
Oh,
drawing?
is that a silt, SILT fence? Is that something different? I
I think it's pretty open.
193.
Yeah, I don't think it's fenced.
That's up during construction.
The construction fence. Okay.
It's like Mr. Davis has his fence around his building right now.
I did hear about the sidewalks, and so I was wondering if it was possible, since it's more walkable, to have like a wider sidewalk. And I guess maybe not just the standard. Is that 5 foot? Standard 5 foot, so maybe bigger, wider, for more people to be able to go back and forth. So those who reside there versus those who are just kind of passing through and walking in their daily route to visit some of the places. Just if that was an option. Because there's more concrete in this area, is there a different drainage type system, or are we okay in the drainage department if it rains in some of our heavy? Because I guess before it's lots of grass to soak that in, or
I think they're still working on drainage with the
Okay.
engineers. They haven't gotten that far yet. I think it's, yeah.
Oh, there's the engineer.
Pauline Gray, GBA City Engineer. Yes, we are still working on figuring out the drainings for all 3 lots right now. The plans have not been approved. The second submittal is in the review queues. We haven't even looked at it yet. So, but yeah, we're still working on drainage because we know there's drainage issues already in that area. So we are definitely looking at that.
okay. Thank you. My last one was about trees. I was just wondering if we were meeting the tree requirement with everything that we have, or if there was an in lieu option, and where was that going to?
Most of the trees are going to be removed. They are going to plant new ones. Some of the trees have to be approved by P&Z to be removed because they are classified as heritage trees. And I don't think that went before P&Z yet. I don't think so. But there are some trees that P&Z is going to have to approve their removal because there are some larger heritage trees.
We're planning to discuss in the November PNC meeting. We postponed it from the October PNC meeting to the November one.
Yeah, they're cedar elms. They're not like heritage oaks, but they're cedar elms, I think.
Are they the ones that would discuss if there was an option, an in lieu option? Because I guess that when you remove a larger tree, it comes with a bigger price tag.
Council members, so they are requesting a variance, but that has to go through P&Z, and P&Z would make that decision on whether it's going to be additional planting of trees or fee in lieu. So that would be taken care of at the P&Z level. Okay.
Other questions, council members? If not, I'll entertain a motion for number 13. Oh.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the development agreement establishing development standards for the Boyce, is that supposed to be BBT development? Or
PTJ.
BTJ?
P.
PTJ development at 101 Boyce Street
With, yep, you got it.
Excuse me. With the revisions provided by legal counsel.
with the revisions provided by legal counsel.
You have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesmer. Any questions to the motion? Any additional questions to the motion?
I have one question. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am.
It's just for my understanding. When does the 380 agreement part begin? Is that after completion or as soon as everything is approved? I guess I was wondering when the first year of the 10 years start.
The 380 agreement starts after completion. It's usually after completion and after initial lease up of the commercial properties. And that's different years also based on the completion. Because these three projects all have different completion dates, so you'll see that in the 380 which phase.
And just to clarify, because we are discussing item 13 and this is the development agreement, all the development agreements have a term that is not the same term as the 380 agreements. It's based on when the entire project, because this is the PJT development project, is completed. So I know that the developer would rather have the time limit be shorter, which is great. We wouldn't be opposed to that. But we want to make sure, again, you heard from city engineering that they're having to go through comments, so we don't want to tie it up and have to bring it back to y'all for an extension. So that's why there is not a specific term. There is a specific term of years in there, but then it also says it's the latter of the two. So once the entire project is completed, then this DA will expire.
Other questions to the motion? No, I'm saying other questions to the motion. Being done, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 14. Consider discussion and possible action on 380 chapter 380 agreement to Jawan Jung, owner of property located at 101 West Boyce Street, to provide development incentives for the development of the property and employment opportunities. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor and Council, thank you. This particular 380 agreement is attached to the development agreement that you just approved, and it is for 101 Boyce Street. It implies a capital investment by the developer of $3.7 million, employment of 12 jobs with a annual salary payroll of $70,000 each, and it's this is the highest of the three actually in payroll numbers. And you have in your package a copy of the economic impact report. The maximum grant amount that's in the 380 agreement is I think 8% of the capital total capital investment. So it's on the very low side of what is usually expected in these cases. So it is staff's recommendation that you accept this 380 agreement and proceed with the developer's plans.
All right, any questions, council members?
Mayor and council members, as the same thing for the development agreement, this 380 agreement needs to have revisions made to it. So city legal is asking that if you choose to make a motion that we change the name of the assignee from again TX Zone LLC to BB TX Zone LLC, and that is shown on 3 places beginning with Article 18. I don't know my Roman numerals. I apologize. Beginning with Article 18, the second paragraph has 2 locations, and then Exhibit C, Recital A, and then the signature page for the assignee as well. And the other item that I ask as well is that there is no page numbering, so we do need to do some formatting changes to this agreement along with the other 380 agreements. So if you will allow us to just format the agreement.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Chapter 380 agreement for 101 West Boyce Street as presented with revisions provided by legal counsel.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesco. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. 15, consideration, discussion, possible action on development agreement establishing development standards for Boyce PJT Development 104 and 108 Boyce Street. Yes, ma'am. What do we need to know?
Again, Mayor, council members, this is the second of the 3 development agreements. This one covers 104 and 108 Boyce Street. Again, this is part of a larger project, the PJT development. And this does not have any revisions.
All right. Questions?
There's a
There's a revision.
There are no revisions
Okay.
to item 15.
All right. Questions, council members? Being none, a motion?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the development agreement establishing development standards for the Boyce PJT Development 104 and 108 Boyce Street.
A motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesco. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being done, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 16. Consideration, discussion, possible action on Chapter 380 agreement to build Block Inc. of the properties located 104 and 108 West Boyce Street to provide development centers for the development of properties and employment opportunities.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is, again, the 380 agreement for the development agreement that you just passed for 104 and 108 Boyce Street. It is for $3.7 million in capital investment for the buildings to be built. Employment numbers are 6 full-time employees phased in over 6 years. 4 years, and $30,000 annual salary. This particular development agreement has, let me get the number here, maximum grant number is $285,161, which is right at just a little under 8% of the capital investment total. And so it's very on the low side of those that are normally approved in this type of investment. And so I would, staff recommends that you approve this investment for this developer and let them proceed with their plans. Any questions?
Any questions, council members?
Mayor and council members, again on this item for the 380 agreement for item number 16, we ask that you include in your motion that city legal be allowed to make some formatting changes and correct any typographical errors.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Chapter 380 grant agreement for 104 and 108 Boyce Street as presented with city legal recommendation.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Musgrave. Any questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 17, consideration, discussion, possible action on development agreement establishing the development standards for Boyce PJT Development 107 Boyce Street. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, council members, again, this is the last of the 3 development agreements, and this is, as the mayor mentioned, 107 Boyce Street. And city legal has no additional revisions.
We have, any questions?
There was one that the young lady said that there was a typo on the amount. It was supposed to be the 3.
That was under agenda 16 for chapter 380 of 104 and 108. So this one should be fine. Yeah.
And we'll take care of that through the formatting and typographical errors.
Other questions? Comments?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the development agreement establishing development standards for the Boyce PJT Development 107 Boyce Street.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Musgrave. Any questions to the motion?
I have one question.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
Will these buildings have like a name on it? Like, I don't have a good example, but I guess just like 101 Boys. Like, is there a name attached to it? Or like their residential side, I guess.
The potential name we are considering is The Boyce for all 3 buildings. So all 3 buildings will be considered as a multifamily residential plus commercial complex, referred to as The Boyce.
Other questions, comments? We have a motion on the floor. There's no additional questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. The consideration, discussion, and possible action on the 380 grant agreement to Joanne John, owner of the property located 107 West Boyce Street, to provide development incentives for the development of the property and employment opportunities. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, this 380 agreement is associated with the development agreement that you just approved, and it's for $4.7 million in capital investment and total of 8 new jobs at $40,000 annual salary, and the $354,447 that is the maximum grant amount is actually 7.95% of the $4.5 million capital investment, which is again very low in the scale of things for this type of project. And along with the other 2 buildings, we hope that you will consider approving this and let the developer get on with their project. We would wish them well and hope that they do some great things in the city of Manor.
Questions, comments, council members?
Mayor, council members, again, on this item, if you can add to your motion, if you so choose, to allow city legal to do formatting and typographical error changes and revisions.
Other questions? Comments? Entertain a motion, questions or comments?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Chapter 380 grant agreement for 107 Boyce Street as presented with legal recommendations.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Messwine. Any questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And
Thank you.
I think that's all of all of those Boyce Street, the boys. We're finished with the boys. All right. So next one, number 19. Consideration, discussion, possible action on an ordinance amending Manor Code of Ordinances Appendix A fee schedule by repealing sections existing sections A5002, A5003 relating to parks and special events rental fees, adopting new section A5002 related to parks and amenities rental fees, adopting new section A5003 relating to special event rental fees, amending section A5004 relating to film projects using city property fees, adopting new section A5007 relating to equipment rental fees, rental and fees for staff services, providing for an effective date, saving severability and open meetings clauses, and providing for related matters. First, thank you all for working hard to get the red line that we talked about at the last meeting to us. Appreciate that. Did you get a chance to have a conversation with the Parks Committee as well? All right, so
Yes, we had a very long discussion.
so we'll let
Had a
you
very
all,
long meeting.
we'll let the three of you all then update us, and then we'll take questions from council members from what you all are presenting today.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. As City Council discussed and suggested last time for city staff to meet with the park board, we did meet and went over all the fees and our ordinance related to these fees, and we reviewed them with the two city council people that sit down on the park board, Sonia Wallace and Aaron Moreno. As you can see, the red liner does show the changes that were made and the changes that were not made as well. We did not increase the fees for the park amenities, but we did some minor changes of some of the definitions to make sure they're accurate with our ordinance, and also define the areas that were up for rental, like park areas and park amenities that are up for rental.
Okay.
And Mayor and council members, if you recall, City Legal was also supposed to be at the meeting and assist with the redlining. So the red line that you have in front of you that was just passed out has one additional item that was not included in the red line that was in the packet. So I wanted to make you aware of it. And if you're not able to follow the redlining, it by all means, I will walk you through it, because what we did was we were just trying to keep what is currently in the schedule, and schedule the fee schedule, and then what was discussed in committee as potential changes. So one of the things that you'll notice is that we do not separate anymore the CASA property, and I'm not supposed to call it that. East Manor Development Number 1. You'll notice that it's not in there right now, but it is captured when you talk about just additional under special events permits for temporary gatherings, and but the two changes that I wanted to make you aware of are on page 3 of what was just handed to you. In that table in the middle, under services and fees, again, City Legal did not provide this, and it was something that the whole park committee had asked for, and that's a deposit. So we have added deposit in the amount of $125, and we have also added the asterisk to make sure that everyone was aware that it is refundable if there is no damage to city property. So you would actually need to make a deposit, which would be refunded back to you. So that's on page 3, and the same deposit would apply on page 5 for the special event permit section. So on page 5, that small table that starts off again, deposit with an asterisk is $125, and it is refundable if there is no damage to city property. So that was the additional redlining to the other red line that you're seeing throughout this ordinance.
Questions, comments? Actually, let's hear from you all first. Kind of your thoughts, what you all were thinking and doing.
We did change debris removal to event maintenance fee, and one of the reasons for that is because we do not currently have staff that work on the weekends. So if you have someone that has an event on Friday and then someone is having an event on Saturday, our parks people have to come in and make sure that the park is clean for the Saturday event. Also, if there's a Sunday event after a Saturday event, our parks people have to come in to make sure the park is clean for the Sunday event. So it is no longer debris removal, it is event maintenance. And we had a lot of questioning about the electricity that is provided at the parks and how the electricity is to be used, because our electrical circuits cannot handle people bringing in their own bounce houses and things of that nature. Usually when we have them, they are on generators. So if someone was to, say, plug in a speaker and a bounce house to our electricity, it's going to blow the circuit. And then we have to have our people out there to go fix it because they rented it and it said electricity. So we have to make sure that when people are renting the parks, that they are basically, they can plug in a crock pot, but major things they cannot plug in because they'll blow the circuit. And we're not, like I said, we don't have people working on the weekends, and to have someone have to be on call to fix a circuit every time they pop it, that's a lot of money.
In addition to that, on our ordinance, what you already have under parks rules and regulations for park amenities, those specify that the city does not provide electricity for temporary structures such as bouncy houses or things like those nature. We already have it under our ordinance.
Come on up, sir.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for bringing that out. Thank you. Again, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Matt Woodard, Public Works Director. Thank y'all, and thank you for the Parks Committee working with us diligently, going through each outline item that we had to go through. So when we got down to the electricity, it's kind of like, okay, we don't have sufficient enough power there. It's better just say, okay, you need to, if you're going to have a bouncy house or something that's going to be significant, you're going to have to bring your own power, your own generator.
Is this, because I know we're somewhere in the master planning phase for the park, right?
Yes, we've also discussed that with the Parks Committee. We're in discussions of what we can do as far as moving forward with the master.
Okay, so is that something that can be addressed there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I know we just added lights out there.
Yes, sir.
We're in the process of adding lights.
Yes,
so.
sir. Yes, sir. We are.
All right.
And I think, Mayor, for us, what we could do is really look at the load on the system and maybe give it blue bonnet and give us some recommendations what we need to do to increase the amperage. Because if you have a stage and different things, that's something we want to take into consideration and bring it before the committee, and then just definitely going to bring it back to you if it's going to be an expenditure over an X dollar amount, so that way we can have the capacity, especially during the summer months.
I would just say, just think about it in the master planning for Timberman, and that part, just kind of thinking about that electric need, so that it's all included in one thing when y'all bring it to us. Because if we're always doing it right, it would be better if we could plug in instead of renting generators.
Yes,
you know, and so I don't know what that cost status looks like. You know, if it's cheaper to have generators versus running it through there, but just something to consider. We ran into that at the Juneteenth event because there was no space designed for it, and so, you know,
we did add electrical outlets around the lights that we're getting installed. The main concern was the electricity right there at the pavilion. So I think what we can do is concentrate on that. I think there's sufficient power source on two different sides, one by the bathroom and one on the other side of the parking lot. Okay. So maybe we can look up to what kind of upgrades we can do. Because it's been notified that every time someone uses those electrical outlets right on the pavilion, that's when they trip out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually it's some of the cooking stuff that they use, I guess it just heats up and it's just not enough amperage.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And to be clear, this is one of those items that was not included. It hadn't been included before for electric services. So it had been included in a previous draft, but in this draft, it's not even showing up. So there is no electricity available at this time, and there is no fee to pay because applications, it's my understanding from city staff that the applications will indicate that you are not able to use city electricity.
Okay.
And just to add, some of these look like fee increases, but they actually weren't correct. And, you know, we talked about the difference between green space and area space. And then also just to mention that we took out the rental of our movie and the park setup and our popcorn machine. And the idea, you know, behind that was we didn't want, you know, nobody to mess up our popcorn machine and movie setup.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Before you go too far, I'm going to go back to electricity. So what I'm hearing you all saying is that if anyone rents the park, they're getting the grass, the pavilion, access to the restroom, and no electricity.
But there is some electricity in the pavilions, but again, big temporary structures such as bouncy house, popcorn machines, some cooking utensil is going to pop our service. Like we will not be able to uphold it. I do know people like plug-in speakers. That is fine. Their cell phone, things like those. But things that need high voltage, our infrastructure will not be able to sustain it at this moment.
I'd like to add that, you know, there is outlets out there that they can use, but I think where it came down to is if they trip, is it going to be a personnel that's going to keep having to come back out there to retrip it? So if they're not going to get charged for any electricity, which we're not going to have that. Therefore, if it does trip, it's not going to be where like we're going to have to pay personnel to go back out there to make another trip to just turn a switch.
So it says 125 deposit, but we're saying on the form, no electricity. Or did I misunderstand?
The deposit is going to be for, say, if somebody goes in the bathroom, or say anything in the pavilion or anything on the grass is torn up, then we'd assess what that deposit deduction would be.
No, on the electricity, or are you just getting rid of the deposit has nothing to do with electricity.
Yeah, they got rid of the word
All right,
electricity.
gotcha. All right, so that's just deposit. Gotcha. All right, I was reading it wrong. It was on the electricity line. That's what was throwing me off. Okay,
Just
I got
pay-
y'all.
Yeah,
I
the
got
electric-
y'all.
There is no electric fees in this.
Yeah, it was on the line, so that's what that was throwing me off. But I got it. All right.
Crossed out. And also the electricity, looking into the electricity upgrades would have to be at both parks.
Second.
Looking into the electricity upgrades would have to be at both parks.
Well, it will
At
have to be at
Timmerman
every
and
park.
Jenny Lane.
And Jenny Lane, yes.
So yeah, that's something that we'll discuss in our park meetings and our planning for what we want for Timmerman Park and Jenny Lane. So electricity would definitely be one of the topics. Yeah.
All right. What else did y'all have to share or walk us through? We were on page 3. Was any other big highlights?
For I think it's for city properties, we changed it to temporary gatherings.
Okay. So
And it's on page 4.
use of city property, facilities, parking lot space, equipment, staff may be in a. So if I'm trying to have an event in City Hall parking lot,
Yes. Basically any city facility. If someone wanted to say, I guess, rent out the chambers or something, for like some kind of training or whatever, then we would have to have the fees for that.
If I may add, on the areas when we said temporary gathering, we have 2 types of temporary gatherings. We came out with the local business one, so that's coming back of what we had in the past city council, the concern of having local business or local citizens trying to do, like, for example, rent our East Development, East Main Development number 1 building. Instead of paying those high fees, we do have a fee that is of $200 per day per facility, kind of thing, per event. But in the opposite side, we also have the regular temporary gatherings that are for more larger events, such as festivals, conventions, etc., that somebody want to bring. That also, it will be up to council. We'll be bringing it up to council for final approvals and any permit that require a larger planning and more in the attendees level. That's what I mean. We're high attendee level events such as festivals, concerts, etc., etc.
so let me make sure I understand, because the language says it can say one thing, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong. If I want to do a block party, pay $25, and then what is an additional charge? Because it says per day per event $25, use of city property, parks, trails, facilities, parking lot space, road closure, city equipment, and staff may be an additional charge. So what am I actually getting for $25?
Your permit to do your block party.
Okay.
Any additional fees will be like, example, if they need barricades, so they will have to pay for the barricades.
So that might need to be like an asterisk that goes on there, and then you just maybe have it at the bottom of the list, so that nobody reads this and just thinks I get $200, and staff may be an additional charge. Like, just so nobody reads that, I pay $200 for a temporary gathering, and I get all this stuff. However, and staff may be an additional charge.
So,
Just for clarity purposes, so that
and Mayor, just to make sure, because are you reading on page 4?
I'm on
the
page
block-
4. Yes, ma'am.
Page 4, block party.
Yeah, because
We do have, and staff may be an additional charge. So you want that to be separate.
Well, I'm saying
with
that
an
whole
asterisk?
what it reads as is everything that's from use of city property all the way down to additional charge, that whole section is not included in the $200.
No, that is separate. Like the $200
Yes.
is completely
So I'm
separate.
saying for clarity for the people,
Mm-hmm.
under details, it probably shouldn't be there, because otherwise it's going to tell someone I paid $200 and this is included, but staff might be an additional charge. So
Understood. So it should just say $200 for use.
yeah, the
or-
details box should say, what am I getting for $200?
Right, and
And-
then
and so-
and then have an asterisk underneath saying,
Yeah. And you already have,
city equipment, staff, and maybe additional charges.
yeah, you already have one asterisk on the other one that says this includes closure or obstruction of parking lot. So maybe it's two of them means these things are additional costs.
Okay.
So that just so it's going to be extra clear, so someone doesn't get excited. Ooh, I can do this. I want to do an event. They look at the stuff and they be like, "Oh, this is cheap," and they plan a whole big thing. And then we're saying, "Oh, well, you want the roadblocks? You want the staff member? Now we're going to go from $25 to $1,500 or $1,700." That's not what you
Right.
said.
So what we would do, and I just want to make sure that city council is correct or is in agreement with this, we would put an asterisk by the dollar amount, at the end of the dollar amount, and then at the very bottom, the asterisk would say, additional charges may include city equipment, staff. I
And
mean,
do we-
I'll do the,
Yes.
I'll write it up correctly. I just can't
Yeah.
think the exact language.
Do we have
I'm
a
on
char-
the spot.
Do we have a chart anywhere for those costs, or is that
Yes, we do. As we keep going down the red liner. Sorry, as we keep going down the red liner,
Okay, I see
there
it.
is an area which says additional charges that you will be able to see it. Basically, those are the changes on page 4.
through page 8? Huh? Staff not included. Okay, and then they'll see where you took the movie theater out, you took the popcorn machine out. What vehicle are we talking about?
That
If we have to pay for a staff and they have to use a vehicle, it's $30.
No. If staff has to transport equipment, that is when we charge the vehicle, which is a charge. Is already something that we already charge. That is not new.
Okay.
We already have that in our current fees. Every time the staff need to go transport barricades or a light tower or anything like that, we do charge that.
I'm
that
just wondering
fee.
what vehicle is it?
It's our basically
Because
their vehicle.
I'll pay $30 to drive the police
Depending
car.
on depending on probably what staff is going to need to transport. If it's barricades, it might be a truck and a trailer of one of
Okay.
our staff's trucks.
So it's our staff.
Yes, our staff's taking it
So-
and driving it. It's not like they're going to rent the truck.
So I need a public works staff for 2 hours. That's $80. And if they need to carry the barricades and stuff, then it's $30 flat for that vehicle. So we're looking at $110. And I got a staff for 2 hours, and whatever vehicle they need to move the equipment.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right.
And we also changed the
And no police cars.
Sorry, ours is separate. Police cars are $15 an hour, but you still can't drive them. And we bill it for actual use. So
Okay.
if the officer has it on an off-duty job and the officer isn't actively using the vehicle, there's no bill. But if the officer is using the vehicle, it's charged per hour for actual use.
Gotcha. All right.
And we also changed the barricades from 150 to 125 for up to 6 barricades, and 200 for like 7 and between 7 and 10, with the maximum being 10.
That looks like less than 10. Less than 6 and up to 10.
Oh no, it's supposed to be
up to
from 1 to 6 and then 7 to 10.
Is that right? Am I
Because-
reading the less than sign
Yeah,
wrong?
that's probably a typo.
Okay.
Because we only have, I think,
Graded,
10
yeah, it's supposed to
barricades,
be
so
facing
we're
Okay.
limited.
In your other table.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, which way is the alligator eating?
Correctly, 7 to 10.
Okay.
In the other package.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Page 8.
Yeah, page 8. The alligator eating is less than.
I don't
Whatever he's
know if
facing.
you wanted the understanding of making sure it's not 5 out of 10, because 5 wouldn't make sense on the road. So
Yeah.
it's an even
Okay.
number, because normally you would have 4 on one side, 4 on the other. So if it's 2 and 2, so that's why we came up with the 6.
Okay. All right. What else, y'all? What else was a standout change? Was that it?
I think that's it.
Okay. Council members, y'all have questions? Again, thank you all. While they're conjuring up their questions, thank you all for having that meeting and hashing all that out for us.
No problem. And thanks to our staff too, our city attorney, because yeah, it was a long. Scott Moore, you know, it was a long meeting.
3 hours.
We started at 4 and got out at 7.
Right. Council members that weren't there for 3 hours, y'all got questions? Are y'all good?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With the way the schedule is laid out now, does this now allow multiple events on the same property, either within the same day or at the same time?
It does allow it, but again, depending how big the event it is and what type of planning and what kind of event it is, we may have to determine whether we approve them separately or we allow them together, just to make sure we don't stretch too much our city resources. But again, that will be a first come first serve kind of base, and if we had to bring it up to council, we will bring it up to council.
That was something else that was discussed, that sometimes the major events that are asked for will come before council.
So I'm just going a little old school here. If it's not in writing, it don't exist. And that statement is not in writing, so it doesn't exist. So is there a space that's appropriate in here, maybe a section
So
7 or?
It was discussed, and one of the things that we would like to do is leave it in the application, because that gives the staff and council the flexibility to make that determination, rather than just someone coming back and saying, it says here that I can have my event along with somebody else's event going on at the same time. As mentioned by city staff, it all depends on the number of folks that are coming, what the event is, and can the facility have more than one event on that same day. One of the things that was discussed during this meeting was taking out, renting it just for 2 hours or 4 hours. We just decided, again, based on input from city council members, we just kept full day with a minimum increase if there was any increase, but it was for the full day, so that again there wouldn't be any conflicts on that. And also the space were being reduced to specific areas to allow for the rest of the community to come and use the facilities, because they are parks, so that you don't have to not come with your child because you bring them, you know, after school or every Saturday or every Thursday evening, you could still utilize portions of the park while an event was taking place. So, Mayor, again, it is up to council if you'd like for us to put that in here. But again, the recommendation would be to not include that, because we are, again, the discussions were, the application is the next thing that's going to be revamped by your city staff. And then it will be an opportunity for city staff to bring you those larger events to make that determination on what is something that you do want to see or not see. And because it's also expected that some will come and ask for waivers of some of these fees, even though they're low fees.
Is there language in here that can say that those things can if it's not here and I'm a resident and I have a concern, I'm going to say, isn't the ordinance heavier weight than the application? And so I wonder if the clause is not here, then the clause maybe language that says that points towards application and some type of procedural thing, so that
Sure.
it can be updated and moved without updating the ordinance. But that it's locked into the ordinance.
One of the things that I'll remind you, this is the fee schedule, and then you have ordinances for special events.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we can do is just reference back to the actual ordinances that are
Would that
already in
work?
your code, and instead of putting anything more in the fee schedule, because that's what you're trying to do, is not codify language.
No, I just want to
within a
make sure
fee
it's still
schedule.
connected.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So we can certainly do that and make those connections.
Okay.
And if it's not in there, then we can also come back to you with the actual ordinance that's in the code to provide you language, recommendations for language.
Yeah, that's
in
the biggest thing. I just want to make sure it
Understood.
stays connected to the other pieces. And so if it's just connecting it to the other to existing ordinance language, then I'm good with that.
And
I don't know. Does that help answer for you for your question, Dave?
Mayor, if you can specifically say what the concern was that you didn't see in here that you would like to make sure that is in the ordinance.
Second.
What was the concern, just to make sure that we've got it? What was the concern that you didn't see in the fee schedule that you would like to see?
Well, just it's the language of, this is what happened. This is what, if we're not in agreements, I fill out an application and something's going on, we're not in agreement of what's supposed to transpire, we being the city and a resident, about fees and how something else went down, that there's the ordinance that governs how it's going to be disputed. So this doesn't have that in there, but we were talking about using the application to do this and do that. And so, but if the language is somewhere else about how it would be disputed, how it would be waived, how those kinds of things, then yeah, just making sure this connects to that. So a resident doesn't come and say, well, I looked at ordinance blank, blank, blank regarding the fee schedule, and there was no mention of that it had to go back to council for this or for whatever. And so it's an application, so that therefore it's a staff thing. So the staff, you all can make this decision. You don't have to go back to council, just to prevent that type of confusion and argument. So if it connects back to ordinance, then it has teeth in how the rest of the ordinance state problems will be solved, whether it be with going to staff or working through the city manager or whatever it might be.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just piggyback on that, right now all our ordinance about special events and park amenity rentals and all that, those set at the discretion of city council.
Okay. I just want to make sure this connects to it though. So that's why I was asking about the language being here. But if you can connect it to the rest of them, then I'm good. Just so there's just a a daisy chain of all park related stuff and so forth. They're all connected.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hill, does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions?
My last question. Just for clarification, the section that has the all other parks, does that include the Manor East development? Okay. And then all the other tiny parks as well. Okay.
The Manor East development, it will be under the gathering permits because it's not a park. Remember, Manor East, we cannot call it a park. The East Manor development is not a park. It's a property we purchased to develop it later on.
If we choose to go for grants later for some sort of park stuff, we cannot have the land already committed as park property.
Yes.
So even the extra property that was purchased over there by Timberman Park, we cannot consider it or use it as park property now if we intend to go for grants later.
Yes, my apologies. Let me just make clear, and Councilmember Wallace is correct. So, in terms of the use of the Manor development number 1, would fall under a 5.003 special event permits. And if you look, there is a difference because the section before that talks about parks and amenities rental permit fees. So these are what city has identified as parks. This other section, again, because that's what you're having right now in Manor Development number 1 is you're having special events, but it has not been designated and it has not been dedicated as a park yet, or any section of it. So, and we want to keep it as that. We want to keep it open for now until you take formal action.
That is why there's 2 different applications. There's one that will be for, there's an application that is for park and amenities rental, and then we have our special events permits that would include everything special events under it, and it will include any other property that is not a park or a trail.
Okay. There's no other questions. I entertain a motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 762, amending Manor Code of Ordinance Appendix A, fee schedule as presented.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
With the revisions.
With the
discussed.
With
revisions by city attorney.
revisions.
With city legal.
City legal.
City legal. Is there a motion? Is there a second to this
I
motion?
second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all again for all of
Thank you
your hard
guys.
work.
Have a great evening.
Number 20, consideration, discussion, possible action on approval to submit the FY 2024 project improvement list to Capital Metro. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, Council, it's that time again where we need to come up with what paving projects we want to present to Capital Metro. And so the first exhibit shows the funding that Cap Metro reached out and sent us a letter. And so it basically says for fiscal year 2024, we will have approximately $3.4 million from Cap Metro. So that's not including any city budgetary funds. And so before you are 3 options. And so we're just requesting that y'all make a choice of which option we should present to Capital Metro. Option number 1 is to conduct street repair work in Stonewater on Jamie Drive, Cummins Way, and Timber Arch Lane. We would also do fog seal work in Greenbury and reconstruct the section of Bodark that's the city. There's about a roughly 1,500 length of Bodark. That's the city, so it goes county, city, and then county. So the county is working on their portion right now. And so with that option, it would be about 3.7 miles of city streets that would be improved. Option 2 would be to put those funds towards expanding Blake Manor. The county expanded it to 5 lanes and then it goes down to 2 for the city. So it would be expanding it to 3 lanes within the city limits. The issue is, even with all that Cat Metro funding, that is not enough to fund that project. So, like I said, we could start the project in one fiscal year and then present it in the next fiscal year to wrap it up. So that is an option, but that is just 0.87 miles. So obviously it's not as much as doing the other project for option 1. Option 3 is to repair Paseo de Presidente. And that one, I don't know if I've driven out there. It's almost like a roller coaster. So that one's a little bit more complicated, where we're going to have to adjust curbs, reconstruct sections of the road, and repair sidewalk. And so basically we would restripe it and everything. And that project would also include the work along Bodark, and that would be about 0.94 miles of city streets. As you can tell, typically we've been doing Cat Metro work down in the older part of the city, but we're trying to reach out to other portions. And I can say, after discussing with city staff, we're recommending option number 1, because there are several citizens in Stonewater that have complained about those 3 streets for several years now.
Question. In your recent communication with Capital Metro, did they ever come back and talk about with you all or with city staff about the economic development uses of the BCT funds? Because this was the conversation that they said they were going to have and bring back to us a little under a year ago.
No, we haven't had that conversation.
No, I haven't had any with them. They haven't reached out regarding anything like that.
Okay. Can we make note to follow up on that conversation with them?
We can reach out to them.
All right. Council members, questions about option 1, 2, or 3?
Have you not had any complaints about Boys Dark?
Not about that street, but out in Stonewater, I don't know if any of y'all live out there or drive out there. There are several issues with like Jamie Drive. There's some pretty significant dips and stuff. The city is currently working to repair wastewater services along that stretch of road. And once that's complete, we've got for bids and we can repair that. Bodark, I don't know if y'all drive out there. It's pretty rough. And I do know the county is working on their section. It would have been nice to know that they were doing it, because then we could have worked with them to do the city section. So, it is an issue, and that street definitely needs work.
I would say there may be an opportunity. I don't know where the county's at, just like Blake Manor. If the city council would consider, if they would consider an ILA to allow that to use their unit costs, but it might be too far down the road with their project, but the opportunity
for Blake Manor.
No. I'm thinking
Bodark.
For Bodark.
I do know we had complaints because we did cross up in that area, the county portion with the wastewater line, and they have they've dug up part of the road and they are working on it. I haven't been out there recently to see how far along they are, like repaving it.
Gotcha.
So.
Because I think if the contractor know he could get some additional work, and if the county would say, hey, if you extend the ILA, the contractor could. But
Yeah,
again,
I just don't know with that type of work. Sometimes the county has their own crews doing it.
Oh.
So that would be something else we need to verify with them. When it's larger stuff like Blake Manor, then they had a contractor for that. But
Right.
I know sometimes, I don't know if y'all have driven out there like on Greg Lane and stuff where they've started repairing the roads and they have not finished.
Yeah,
So,
I've been out there this week.
yeah, some parts are a pretty rough drive.
Yeah, had residents reach out to me about Bodark and the roads in Stonewater, and I drove out to Bodark not long ago, and that one's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's probably one of the worst city streets there are. Because I could say it's pretty bad even compared to some of the streets down here. So,
I can say, Mayor, I think we had that conversation briefly with the director about if there was a way to have funds issued in a bond type situation, and then utilize some of the BCT funds to pay that. That way you can get probably more streets done, and then that way, you know, if it's $6 million, you have an opportunity to pay some of that off as an option, because if not, we be waiting another cycle.
Yeah.
And we do patchwork, and then we still gonna get behind because you could have a wet winter or wet spring.
Yeah.
And then your road's gonna continue to deteriorate. So I guess when we follow up with Cap Metro, we can ask the question: if we look at a comprehensive approach, would they be willing to allow us to explore that option with them and come back before the council and say, hey, we can get $8 million worth of work done in over a 4-year period, be able to utilize some of those funds to pay that off.
I'm leery about extending that long.
No, I don't want to go that long. But just
Okay. Real quick question: what is the city portion start again? Is it at Paseo de Presidente? Or is
yeah,
it-
so it starts where you come out of Presidential Glen, and so basically it runs from
So past that street right there, where
Right.
where across the street is
yeah,
Presidential
so it
Meadows.
runs along that whole section of Presidential Glen, and then it stops like right there at that boundary of the subdivision, and that's where it starts back up to be the county.
So wait. So from 290,
No, from 290 to the boundary that I can't remember that street. Is it Paseo? Where that street starts, that's where the city portion starts. Between
so
that
from
street and
290 to
290 is
Paseo.
Travis County still. So it's just that one section along Presidential Glen, that subdivision. It's just that one. It's just, like I said, it's not that big of a section.
For future reference, could we get like a diagram next time, a
Yeah,
map?
I can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So from 290 to Paseo.
Right, that's Travis County, and then from Paseo
This
up.
is right here. So not from 290, from Freedom Hill.
From the entrance, from the first entrance.
I'm sorry, from the
Yeah, no, it's from the first entrance of
From the first
So,
entrance
yeah,
to the
so
second
between
entrance.
290 to that first entrance to Presidential Glen, that's Travis County. From that all the way up to
Paseo de Presidente.
that's city.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's the rough part.
Okay. Gotcha. And the 292 Freedom Hill, that's county is working on that now.
I don't know if they're working on that section because there's some stuff going in right at the intersection of Bodark and 290, and they're required to do some intersection improvements with their development.
Okay.
That's per their TA with Travis County.
Okay. So we're gonna, option, excuse me, option 1 and 3 will fix that portion
Of Bodark, yes.
regardless of what's happened on either side with county.
Yes.
Okay. And then Jamie Drive, and Timber Arch. That's all Stonewater.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So, Cummins Way, Jamie Drive, and Timber Arch. Those are all in Stonewater. And then that option includes doing the fog seal on Greenberry because those streets are in really good shape. So if we fog seal, that'll give us another 5 years before we have to do like major maintenance on them.
All right, council, thoughts? 1, 2, 3, questions? What's the plan for option Or do you have anything ideas for the remaining funds of option one? Just save it for another project.
Yeah, if you look in the handout, there's option one, and so there is roughly $300,000 remaining funds. For Cap Metro funds, we don't have to use them all in the one fiscal year, so we can roll them over. It just happened to be that we were trying to pick stuff in the same vicinity and stuff, so there really wasn't anything else that we could do for the 300,000.
Well, like I said, if you can explore those conversations, because my understanding is VCT funds can be utilized in projects that's going to spur economic development.
Per the interlocal agreement, we can use those funds for sidewalks as well. And there's, I don't know if y'all have seen the interlocal agreement, but it lists out what we can do with those funds. And like I said, it has sidewalk improvements on there.
Yeah, definitely familiar with that. So, Council, option 1, 2, 3 are questions?
Question: do we know who? And it might be too early. Who the subcontractors will be for these projects?
No, we won't know until we go out for bids. There are several. There's a local contractor that did not the current one, but the one the previous year, and then we've had 2 different contractors on the one-time BCT that did Shadow Glen Boulevard in Lexington. That was Lone Star Paving. They do a lot of work out here for the subdivisions, and they're the ones who did Hill Lane. And then it's Smith Paving is doing the current one that they just started on the additional work from that change order, and they're a smaller outfit. And so typically in the past it's been Forsyth Brothers from here in Manor and Smith Paving.
Is it okay if I give you a recommendation? I know someone who does asphalt work who graduated from Manor High School who does.
Yeah, so what we
repairs.
can do when we go, if you give me their information when we go out for bids, I can make sure they get a notification.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, for time's sake, we need to pick an option or not pick anything out. Those are where we're at right now. So I will entertain a motion.
I like to, make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I do like the idea of being able to cover more square footage, or I guess a roadway, with I guess what option one has, but I would like for it to be definitely beneficial, like the number of houses or traffic area, I think is what I'm saying. I've seen where some of the capital streets that have been repaired have the benefit is only for a small amount of people or group of people, and so it would be nice to know. So maybe the picture would have helped to know exactly what was around it, to know the benefit of it, but I like the idea that you just brought up about being able to improve some of the walkable spaces, like our sidewalks. If that's an option, and I guess the price tag on that, that would be something I would like to see as an option right now.
So what you're asking is, what's the residential impact on
option one?
On option one. I would also, out of curiosity, if we use the 800 from the streets fund, I'm assuming that's where it's coming from. The 800,000 that's from our streets fund in our general budget that we just set aside.
Yeah. So if you look for each option, it shows what we're getting from Cap Metro, and then it has city budget funds in there. So that overall project funds that are listed on each option does include the 800,000.
Does that empty us out?
Yes, sir. We also have this next. Now we're into this next fiscal year. We have that 800,000, so we can bring back the next plan. So we do have Boydie Arc and those things still on our list. So we're hoping we can bring that back to council with that's kind of, you can kind of see all those three options. They're definitely on our radar. So that 800,000, we're going to come up with the next year's plan on what roads to get.
Okay. Because that's what, so this current fiscal year, we have the 800,000 set aside for roadway improvements. This 3 mile stretch is going to be empty, which goes to, I think, Deja's question about the impact. The biggest bang for the buck out of, our ongoing road list. Definitely know that these are terrible, but if we're about to empty out the fiscal year budget for, not, let me say that, I don't know people watch, not the fiscal year budget, but the streets budget, what we allocated for streets for this year. If we're going to empty out on this project, it means we're not going to have anything else in this fiscal year, correct? The BCT funds, we have leftover BCT funds from last year. We have this current year's fiscal year BTC funds, and then we don't have a year indicated in the city budget funds. If that's 23, 24, or if that's, 24, 25. So my assumption is that this is 24, 25.
That is one thing that definitely confuses me too, is the BCT funding. It always seems like it's always a year behind.
Yes, well, so because of the rollover, there's 2023 funds and there's 2024 funds that we have now, and at some point in time there'll be a 25 funds. I'm not even asking about those. It's really about the city budget, and that's what came to mind with Councilwoman Hill's question is, what he's talking about, the impact of the expenditure. Because if we didn't have, let's say we didn't have these three options at all, what was our plan for the $800,000?
We do have a current list that we have that has a plan sheet. And
yeah, that running sheet. So that we're on the same page. So
yes,
we have that running sheet
of
all those projects. And I think what Councilwoman Hill is saying, we know that we scanned them all the roads. We know that we looked at, we have a fiscal formula through that software we purchased that says, hey, these are the ones we need to do based off of the money we have set aside. So I'm sure through that list, there's $800,000 and there's a recommendation on which streets to do from that. What she's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilwoman Hill, what you're saying is, in addition to what we've already been using, which has basically continued to put us into fixing downtown roads, right? The majority of the work has been downtown based off of the formula. What she's saying is, can we add another variable or another data point, which is biggest impact for road users? Meaning, if on Bodoc there's 5,000 counts daily, but on some other street there's 10,000 counts. We know they all need to be neat, but maybe we prioritize this 4 million, or give or take some, for that, if we're going to be really trying to address residents' needs versus saying, that we can get 3 miles out of it. Because when you said 3 miles out of it, I was like, yes. But listening to Councilman Hill, if there's a way to have a bigger impact on a space that's more used, then I would be interested to know what road would that be. Is that about right? Okay. That sound right to y'all? Y'all understand what I'm saying? All right.
Yeah. And we can definitely, once we get that funding and then get that identified, we can bring it back to council.
Okay.
But on option one, it really is spreading it out through the city. Greenberry can use it's a few patchworks, and I want to kind of go back a little bit with the software that we used. We did end up driving the roads. That is a huge difference. So I also talked to staff and engineering that we really got to go out there and look at it. And I don't know if y'all have seen Jamie Drive, but it's rough, and the surrounding streets. So it's pretty clear of this needs immediate attention. But we're also I've kind of directed staff we need to drive it, because it's a lot of the stuff that we've seen on the software. Says it just needs a mill and overlay. It really needs full depth repair. So I've been highly advising it. We have great staff that can go out there and say, yeah, this needs to be totally redone. So we're kind of double checking that software, because they go like at 15 miles per hour. So you don't really get to see the huge deep incline. So I hate to say, but it's a lot better when you have staff out there really looking at it.
Okay. 100%. And then we're using that Good Road, right?
Yes,
to
sir.
scan it. I got you.
Also, I think the question was if some of the money could be used to put sidewalks, because we get hit a lot by the downtown residents about no sidewalks and the danger of walking. Part of the roads that are dangerous is county, but we also have sections of that is dangerous for people to walk on,
Yes.
and we need to put some sidewalks in.
Yes, ma'am. And I think that's going to help too when we get the drainage study all going too. That can go hand in hand. But there's some immediate sidewalks that's clearly needs to be worked on.
And also because I was asked this question this week, for the reasoning that Bastrop Street was not completely finished out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I know Pauline probably can answer this. When I came here 2 years ago, I kind of inherited a project that they had redid a wastewater line, and that wastewater line was not compacted right, so it was failures going on. So it's been some time to get the contractor to come back out, redo that subgrade work, that road base work the correct way, and then they're supposed to come back and pave. We didn't want to go in there and repave it all, and then all of a sudden it fails again. So to my knowledge, they're still going to come out and do their portion, which is not going to make it right on the rest. We will need to come back and address the whole street.
Okay, I just want that to be on the record.
Yes, it needs it.
Yeah, no, they're scheduled to be out here next week. So to fix that part. So.
Okay, so council,
Thank you.
y'all have some options about 1, 2, 3, or if you want more data. But we'll entertain a motion for this item.
Out of 1 and 2, which one would have the most impact on Boys to Art?
Well, option 2 is
She means 1 and 3.
yes, you probably mean 3 because 2 is Lake Maynard to expand it to 3 lanes, and there's not enough funding. It would take all the money, and then we'd still have to save up to do that. Option 3, a lot of people drive on Bodark. There's a lot of people that I don't know the exact number. I think there's like 900 houses in Presidential Glen, and a majority of them will either go out Bodark or they will go out Paseo de Presidente and go out to 290. But I can tell you in Stonewater, doing just repairing those 3 streets, it affects 207 houses.
Okay.
And then
thank
I
you.
think there's a little, like around 300 people that live in Greenbury, roughly.
How many off of Paseo de Presidente?
That one, it's around, I think it's around 900 lots for all of Presidential Glen. Not everybody probably goes out that road. But like I said, the only other option to get out of that would be then to cut across to Bodark. So.
Yeah, there's only, there's Paseo de Presidente, Bodark. Has major exits unless you go
Yeah,
through.
though Bodark and Paseo de Presidente probably have the most traffic compared to the roads out in Stonewater and Greenbury. You know, Greenbury is just going to be people going to and from there because you can't cut through to anywhere else. So, you know, one way in, one way out right now.
All right, council, you gotta talk to me. What are y'all thinking?
And if this helps, when we send the list to Cat Metro, it is not set in stone. We can always make adjustments to it. So,
are you hesitant because you need more information, or are you hesitant because you're picking one subdivision over another one? What are your thoughts?
I am hesitant because I like sidewalks.
Okay. Let's see. Well, we can zoom in and let's see. Where's Jamie Road?
And there's no negotiation.
Jamie Road has sidewalks. Timber Arch has sidewalks.
all of Stonewater should have sidewalks.
It's those are in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So none of these would need sidewalks. Where would you rather see? Yeah, would you rather? So, are you saying you would rather see sidewalk improvement than the roads?
If that gives us more rollover for 24-25 and less less city budget funds spent for that time, yes. Even if we have no rollover, that's fine. But that extra city budget fund part, if that number decreases for this project, then yes. Like, what if it was not the entire list of option 1 or the entire list of option 3, but something within there?
I would say, Council, I think due to some of the conditions on Jamie Drive, I know we've been out and started fixing some collapsed sewer. So I think it's at the section. So there are some sections that have really failed. And with the camera truck, we've been able to identify some areas. So the fact that we had the truck and identified those areas, we were able to dig and make some repairs, which is like backstrap. We make the repairs, and then you're kind of on a cycle. You have to wait, and I think that's one of the things. If we're going to make any in-depth repairs, is to camera those areas to make sure we don't have to come back later on any of the streets, because that's the worst thing we want to do is make a repair, and then we have a sewer line or water line that needs to be replaced. Is to try to identify that before we go down that path.
Just to kind of
Yes,
touch
sir.
on that's kind of what a lot of those repairs I was telling you about with the camera van that is seen a lot, and the guys are doing a lot of 14 repairs on Jamie Drive. That street is completely failed. It's the curb, the sidewalks. I mean, it's all going to have to be pretty much redone. But thank goodness the guys are working on all the sewer repairs, and it might have caused some of the shifting and stuff too. So we're trying to correct all the issues underneath before we do all the road work.
And I think also what's added to that is, with our once a week pickup with trash over time, if you have a wet season and that weight and things are not good underneath, that's when you start seeing some other things show up in the older subdivisions. And so it's something we have to keep in mind too when we are identifying the streets, is to make sure, keep that in mind, is that there's a lot of heavy weight that's going down those streets, even school buses too. If some buses go in there, and if the kids complain when the bus driver goes through the neighborhood too fast, it could be a little bump there. But just things that we have to keep in mind because of the other uses besides the residential.
So this one definitely hits on the public works project list. Jamie Drive from underneath and on top of that. Okay. And I see it does have listed in here for sidewalk repair, but okay.
if there is any money left over, can we work on some sidewalks somewhere else?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you could use those Cap Metro funds for sidewalk. So yeah, once we wrap up that, if there's extra funds, that you can use that, and all we would do is submit that additional work to Cap Metro and say we use the extra funds to do this part. Kind of like with the current paving project where we did the change order, and we're adding those additional streets. I'll just let them know at the end. It's like, well, we had extra funds left over, so we went ahead and added these streets. And so that's happened when I do the project closeout. You know,
Do we
just like
have-
Cap Metro, because like I said, it's not set in stone. You know, we send them a list, but as long as we let them know what we use the funds for and we close it out, we're okay. And like I said, and per the agreement, we can use it for sidewalks.
Do we have a even a sidewalk plan or a list of? I mean, everybody knows this area.
Yes, sir.
Hamilton Point.
We do actually spend funds each year to level out a lot of sidewalks and
Mhm.
repair. So
I mean, just I think, which is awesome because we've seen the team out there doing that. I think what we're talking about, or what we're being asked, is creating more sidewalks. Do we have, or do we need to have that CIP meeting so we can talk about?
I think that would always be good to have a CIP meeting and to go
Okay.
over it. I know we've had several meetings that we've talked to with TxDOT and other things too to try to connect a lot of the sidewalks.
So, who's that?
In Travis County too, we've talked to them.
There
So
we
we're
go.
trying to all work collaboratively together and try to connect those dots.
Yeah, I think sidewalk connectivity is important.
If there's any more sidewalks, I know that seems like that list and seems like the roads are endless. But if there's some that are worse than others, please let us know. And we'll continue
Yeah.
to work on our side on our budget.
So I think for the committee, there's the conversation again of what needs to be repaired, kind of just like we started a long time ago on the roads. What sidewalks need to be repaired, and then where sidewalks need to go, and we have to figure out how to get a cost of that so it can be a priority as well in those spaces. I think as development happens in some places, you don't have to worry about sidewalks, so you don't have to take care of those pieces. But in spaces like in neighborhoods that are confined, like a Hamilton Point, where there's no sidewalks, that's a whole nother discussion about so what will we do something there? If we will do something, what is it going to need to look like, and then how much is that going to cost, and then what's financially feasible, and what all the other projects going on. So if y'all can meet and kind of start hatching those things out. Because we have.
We can also start looking at, certain streets that are TxDOT. They have funding as well that we
Yes.
can touch into. In Travis County, same thing. So we can keep that holistically of thinking, okay, what streets or where is it at, and then what funding we can get to.
Down 973 by the Dollar General, going towards going out 973. There's so many people that walk across that grass and have to cross over to get to the Dollar General and stuff. So
I've been also getting phone calls about wanting some pedestrian walkways to get over 290, 973. So yes, ma'am.
And I think the meetings we've had with Travis County and with TxDOT, they hear our plea. We just have to have a plan to show where the missing pieces, like you're saying, Mayor and Councilmember Hill. Just once they see the pieces, I think they'll be able to see that we're in need, because they really haven't committed a lot of resources our way for those type of another motive, for people to get around on. So I think we can definitely put together a plan to share with the county and TxDOT.
Okay. Need a motion so we can give them direction.
Mayor Council would like to make a motion that City Council select option number 1 of the proposed options and approve the submission of the proposed project list for fiscal 2024 to Capital Metro by the city manager.
Motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hill. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Yes, ma'am.
Does that have to agree with everything on option one? Is that just to
Well,
give
this
it-
is just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, just to give Cap Metro a list of what our potential.
Yes. Yes. It's just about the list. Does that make everybody feel better? It's just the list? No? Okay. So obviously we need some time in CIP to kind of dive more into the conversations that we had today. But this gets at least the list turned in. And then if we need to, hopefully y'all can meet soon and then bring it back if we need to make adjustments. Sound good? And then also, if you all have more questions, we can send those in as well. All right. So we've got a motion on the floor. Any additional questions to the motion? Being done? All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I didn't see your hand. 4? Okay. Passes 6-1. All right. All right. Moving to, where's my list? There we go. Item number 21, consideration, discussion, possible action on a statement of work 35 to master service agreement with George Bush Associates, Inc. for the replacement of existing 12-inch diameter water line with a 16-inch diameter water line between intermediate tank and downtown. Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This and the next few projects are all related to the option 2 that was selected for commitment of the remaining fiscal year 2023 certificates of obligation that were issued. If you all recall, there was about $5.5 million left over towards utility infrastructure work, and so these are the beginnings of utilizing the remainder of those funds, and these are the higher priority projects. So this first one is the oversizing of the water line between the intermediate storage tank and downtown. I think I've spoken to you all about this before. It'll do two things. One, it'll increase capacity of the line to convey water by gravity from that intermediate tank to the downtown plant. It will also replace the old thin wall pipe with a new higher pressure rated pipe that's more reliable. So it'll improve system reliability as well too. Right now the pressures in that line are just about at the rated capacity at the lowest elevations, which are underneath creeks. So it's always been a vulnerable line. This will improve and make it much more robust and also increase the capacity on it.
All right. Questions, comments, or motion?
It will increase the water pressure in downtown Manor.
It won't increase the water pressure, but what it will do is it will allow more water to get from the well field to downtown. Okay, so right now the well field can produce more water and get it up to the intermediate tank, but the intermediate tank and then the tank over here behind the police station, that pipe just flows by gravity. There's no pumps. And so if we oversize the line and put in a more reliable pipe as well, we'll get more water through it, and there's less chance of that line blowing out underneath a creek. So it could improve it, I guess, and say that there's greater capacity to be able to keep the tanks full and all that, but it would be marginal difference. It's really more water to downtown and making the best use out of the Colorado Alluvium well field 6 miles south of town.
Once the work started, how long would it take to complete?
So it's about 22,000 feet of pipe. It's a pretty long section. It's going to take probably around 8 months to construct from start to finish. A lot of it's through greenfields, but there are sections that are developed along it. And then once we get into downtown, it's going to get pretty complex. Getting those, the last few blocks in downtown and then over back to the water plant. There's a lot of lines and pieces in there. It's going to be pretty complex. That's going to be slow going, but they'll be able to make pretty good progress on some of those areas south of town where there's no development.
So Frank, I'm sorry. So the question is, so the existing line would be in place, and this is just to be a new line within the same easement.
I'm sorry?
So the existing line is going to still be in place, and this upgrade is going to be parallel.
So it would be parallel. So this is not going to be a dig and replace, because then we'd have to take the current one out of service for an extended period. The city doesn't really have the luxury of doing that. It's in the Gilbert Lane right of way, which is a Travis County right of way. And we've already had one circumstance where a section of that line has been exposed due to some development by a private developer. And so the idea is, let's get this out of public right of way that's not the city's and into private easements. That's the optimal solution.
No, I just want to make sure when we talk about 22,000 linear feet, it has to be existing, stays in place while we put in a new. Because if not, we can't afford to try to piece
lose almost 1 million gallons a day worth of water supply capacity, and yeah.
Okay. Questions, comments, or motion?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed statement of work number 35 to the master service agreement with Judge George Butler Associates, Inc. for the water line upsizing project in the amount of $541,200.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem here. Any questions to the motion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
That runs underneath that railroad track, right?
It will cross under the Cap Metro Railroad track, so we will have to, since it's going to be on a new assignment, we're going to have to get a separate permit for it.
Okay, cool. So you'll be coordinating with all of them, and
yes.
All right, so perfect.
Yeah, easy peasy.
Other questions, comments?
Is that all included in this budget, or will we have to make amendments along the way?
As far as the work to do, all of the engineering and everything, that's all included in this budget.
Other questions, comments? All right, being done, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving on to consideration, discussion, possible action on, we're on 21, right?
22.
22. Possible action on a statement of work number 37 on the master service agreement and with George Butler Associates for construction of water line necessary to provide adequate conveyance across 290 from Greg Manor Road ground storage tank and pressurization facility to the south side of U.S. Highway 290 that serves downtown Manor.
So this project, again, is another one of those projects in option 2. Effectively, what this will be able to do is, again, accomplish a couple of different objectives. One is with the construction of the new Greg Manor ground storage tank and pressurization facility over by the Shadow Glen elevated storage tank there off of Greg Manor Road, we'll have the ability to push water into the Manor distribution system with Manor's own pumps. And so you have pressure autonomy to be able to do that, but be able to get everything that you want to be able to get out of there and into downtown and into the west elevated storage tank. We need to add capacity to get underneath the highway because it's pretty limited right now. So to improve the conveyance capacity of that water source, it'll also provide a redundant crossing under 290. You have limited numbers of crossings under 290. And if your water source is on one side, you want to make sure that you've got redundancies to be able to get under the highway. So that's what this project would accomplish.
This is just the design and management, right?
Yes.
And then who's doing the work?
So the construction work it'll be bid out just like all other projects. So we'll put it out for competitive bid.
And what would be what's that estimated cost, or will you be bringing that back?
So the estimated cost for construction is $532,000.
Okay.
So on the item before, is that 541 just for engineers? The was that for the 22,000 linear feet of pipe, new pipe?
That's for turnkey,
Okay.
Preliminary engineering, design, and construction phase services. One of the things that we started adding in management is the construction phase, and I talked with Matt about it a little bit. And for this next revision, we're going to go with a consistent wording. You know, this was our first run at putting together these charter agreements, and we started switching that a little bit, but it's the same scope of services that have always been provided, as far as everything from stem to stern, all the way from very beginning design, preliminary engineering, through final construction phase and project closeout. So it's turnkey.
Questions, comments, council members?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed statement of work number 37 to the master service agreement with George Butler Associates, Inc. for the water line upsizing project in the amount of $68,000.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Him. Any questions to the motion? Do you know when that after this design phase, when that 500 construction piece is going to come up?
As far as like going out for bid?
Yeah.
So schedule wise on that, that's one that we can move pretty quickly on. The next project is the Bodark water line. Our recommendation is going to be to combine those two to maybe get a little bit better economies of scale.
Are we still on track for the kind of the multi-year timeline, or like right now? Because the project cost shows 2026 fiscal year for the construction part. So
right.
Are we still on time?
So we should be able to get it done by 2026. Yes, absolutely.
Is it starting or?
No, it'll be completed in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Other questions, comments? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. So consideration and discussion on possible action on Statement Board 38 to the master service agreement with George Butler Associates for the design and construction of a water line that will complete a loop along Bodark Lane to provide improved water quality, system reliability, and enhanced system capacity. Yes, sir.
All right.
One of our
So
other projects.
this line is the line that connects US 290 and the 16-inch water line that's in Bodark that goes into the Presidential Glen subdivision. Initially, the distribution system in Presidential Glen subdivision was the connection from the Tower Road elevated storage tank. The line comes out of there, goes east on Tower, and then south on Bodark, and then in Paseo de Presidente, it goes down to 290. And so there's no connection along Bodark that completes that 16-inch line down to 290. And so this is that last segment. It's about 2,800 linear feet, and that will help significantly in improving pressures in that area and water quality as well, too.
Okay. Questions, council members? If there are no questions, I'll take a motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed statement of work order number 38 to the master service agreement with George Butler Associates Inc. for the water line upsizing project in the amount of $170,000.
Excuse me. We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hill. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Number 24, consideration, discussion, possible action on Statement Work 40, the master service agreement for George Board Associates, Inc. for the upsizing of existing gravity relief pipes and pipes diameters range from 18 inch to 36 inch. Total length of the pipe to be installed 4,060 linear feet.
So this is one of the projects that keeps me up at night, and it's a solution to that issue. This line serves a number of different areas in town. The line receives the output from both the Wild Horse Creek or Creekside lift station there at the south end of Wild Horse Creek, as well as the Carrie Manor lift station. So basically everything in the Gilliland Creek Basin gets pumped over to the east side and drops into this 15-inch line on just off of Southland Passes there. And then it goes through up to the north and drops into Llano Street. And at the beginning of Llano Street, you also have the force main that comes in from the Bell Farms lift station, which has just been oversized, and the Carrie Manor lift station, which is about to be oversized. And so we knew we were getting close, and when we did the wastewater master plan, this one was the one that popped out red on the model, and it's like, okay, we need to do something and do something quickly. And so that's why this item was added to the priority list and brought in for construction. So this would be oversizing that line. Right now it's 15 inch all the way down. It may go up to 36 inch at the within the plant site. So there's a need. Yeah.
Questions, comments?
For how many years will this take us through, Frank?
So we ran the evaluations. I'm trying to remember if the ultimate on the wastewater master plan, I think it was a 15-year time horizon. But what I can say on this one is that we're going to be pretty close to build out of all of the Wilbarger Basin, at that point. So it should be able to meet ultimate needs, and we'll make sure that, we get there. But yeah, it's a 15-year horizon.
Questions, comments, motion?
Yeah, very happy to see this one on here too. So with that being said, Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed statement of work number 40 to the master service agreement with George Butler Associates, Inc. for the water line upsizing project in the amount of $486,500.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Member Hill. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Moving right along. Let's see. City Council will now convene into convene to executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with authority contained in 551.701 Texas Government Code Section 105 Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct. So with legal counsel regarding construction contract for Bell Farms Presidential Glen Lift Station Project 551.0771 Texas Government Code and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct. So with legal counsel regarding a local agreement with the City of Austin regarding transfer of Maynard Downs staff and property, Section 551.071, 551.002 Texas Government Code, Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct to consult with legal counsel regarding the purchase of the Gildan property, a 0.198 acre tract of land. Section 501.071 Texas Government Code, Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, consult with legal counsel regarding the Hibbs Lane parcel. Section 551.071 Government Code, Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, consult with legal counsel regarding public safety. Section 551.071 Texas Government Code, Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, consult with legal counsel regarding the license agreement with Lennar Homes, and Section 551.071, 551.072 Section Texas Government Code, Section 1.01 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, consult with legal counsel and to deliberate on real purchase of real property. We're ready. City Council will now reconvene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code and take action if any on items discussed during closed executive session. Number 25, consideration, discussion, possible action to approve a change order to the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen Lift Station Expansion Project. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Mayor, Council, like to make a motion that we approve change order number 4, a deduct to the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen Lift Station Expansion Project with JM Pipeline in the amount of $10,911.17 and the addition of 54 calendar days to the final completion of this project.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hill. Any questions to the motion? Question to the motion, being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on in-local cooperation agreement. Thank you, sir. With all City of Austin for release to transfer of property with City of Austin extraterritorial jurisdiction ETJ to the City of Maynard ETJ. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone item number 26 to November 6th.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hill. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion, possible action on resolution authorizing purchase and closing of a tract of real property consisting of 0.198 acres, more or less, located in Travis County, Texas, for $169,900. Plus closing costs, title insurance costs, providing for approval of purchase and sale agreement and amendment to agreement, and providing for related matters. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-35, authorizing the purchase and closing of a tract of real property consisting of 0.1980 acres, more or less, located in Travis County, Texas, for $169,900. Plus closing costs, title insurance costs, providing for approval of the purchase and sales agreement and an amendment to the agreement and providing for related matters, and authorize the city manager to execute the purchase agreement and all necessary documents to close on purchase of the property.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Emily Hills. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned on a whole nother day, Thursday, October 17th, 12:16 a.m. Good morning.